If you're unfamiliar, this is Tucker Carlson. Everybody probably knows him. He went on Joe Rogan to have a conversation with Joe about all kinds of crazy stuff. I think they're talking about like the AEPs, aerial phenomena, or UAP, unexplained aerial phenomena, basically UFOs that they discovered floating around all over the place.
It is.
B, medical injuries as...
Wait. Look at this. He's got it pulled up. It's showing... What are we looking at? This is on Twitter. Why am I looking at the twit? It's some unclassified, supposedly unclassified image of a beach. Why am I looking at an unclassified picture of a beach? Why are they not showing me the actual thing, the actual unexplained aerial phenomena or whatever? If you guys don't remember this, there were a bunch of little objects in the atmosphere that were floating around, and the United States famously shot them down, and not too long ago. And conspiracy theorists went wild, made all kinds of wacky claims about how they knew it was aliens and aliens are real and so on and so forth. There's no reason to think it was aliens yet. I don't feel we have enough evidence to believe that.
result of other anomalies, see collateral injuries, psychological effects to family members. So they're admitting that people are dying.
Who's they? He says they are admitting. Who's they?
See collateral injuries, psychological effects to family members. So they're admitting that people are dying.
It's just like a tweet from
Is this it?
a day or two
Yeah.
ago.
Oh, check it out. It showed us who it was from.
What does that mean?
Let me can I zoom in? I can't zoom in. Damn it. Is this from Lester Naro? I don't know who the hell Lester Naro is. Executive summary. Like the credibility on this thing is zero right now. I have no idea who wrote this or why, where they got it, or any of that other stuff. I'm super skeptical, beyond skeptical.
Do you ever wonder if stuff like this is just disinformation?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Tucker, of course, knows when things are disinformation. But he's going to push this stuff anyway because it's useful to him. He's basically like the new Alex Jones, Tucker is.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I wonder if... I wonder a lot of things.
I'm sure you do.
But,
I would always assume that a lot of this stuff is nonsense.
Yes, exactly. Thank you, Joe. I can't believe I'm saying that.
yeah, here's what we know is that...
Nothing. We know nothing. That's the answer. We know nothing. That's what you should be saying right now.
U.S. servicemen have died as a result.
We don't know that. That was in a testimony by somebody. I don't remember who it was. Supposedly somebody was injured. Didn't say died. Somebody was injured working on some project or something. We don't know any more than that.
Of contact with or being in the proximity of these vehicles.
That is nonsense. Like, he's just spouting off garbage right now. If it doesn't make sense to you, that's okay. It's not supposed to make sense. It's supposed to lend him credibility, like he knows more about a subject than you do. That's why he's saying it this way. It's just garbage.
And we know that because there are a lot of suits working their way through the VA system.
Yeah?
What? There are a lot of suits working their way through the VA system? I mean, the VA system exists for people to use, so I would assume that people are using it.
Where families, can't get compensated for the deaths or injuries to loved ones.
Because it's all under wraps, top secret.
Well, that's just a fact, okay, that is happening. So if
Oh, and where'd you get that fact, Tucker?
there's, I guess, when there are measurable physical effects of a phenomenon, we can say conclusively the phenomenon is real.
Right.
Oh, we can, huh? He's about to disagree with evolution under the same pretenses, despite the fact that it's measurable. Just like any other phenomenon, evolution is measurable, but he doesn't care. He pays absolutely no attention to that one. Suddenly, skepticism goes right out the window when it comes to this subject, apparently.
And So yeah,
But
I mean,
isn't
it is real. I mean, I guess we're sort of past the point of like, is it real? Yeah, it's real.
It's
No, we're not past that point. I mean, there are unexplained aerial phenomena. Doesn't mean that they are aliens or whatever, the way that he is implying here. Just complete garbage.
Isn't
it is real. I mean, I guess we're sort of past the point of like, is it real? Yeah, it's real.
it's real in that there's these things that are moving in very bizarre ways, and they have these propulsion systems that
I appreciate that Joe is being skeptical.
violate what we know about propulsion systems. Retrieving data across dimensional space-time, develop remote viewing comms and countermeasures, determine baseline for physical transport across dimensional space-time barrier, rapid response medical teams for UFO interaction events.
Yeah, I have no idea what this is all about or where this came from or who he's talking about or any of that. This all sounds like disinformation and garbage to me.
So how,
Sorry, I would love to know that there are aliens out there definitively, one way or another. Are there aliens? I'd love to know. In fact, I would love it if there were aliens. I want there to be aliens out there, desperately. But I'm not going to latch on to every piece of ridiculous nonsense that I hear. Sorry. I need to vet. Just because I want it to happen, or just because I want it to be true, doesn't mean it is true. I want to believe as many true things as possible, as few false things as possible. Okay, apparently there's some declassified video, a government official talking about something. I'm not super clear. If somebody has info on this, then at me in the chat on YouTube or on Twitch, either one. At Owen Unfiltered on YouTube, or highlight the message on Twitch and I'll watch for it. Twitch is easier to reach because there are fewer people talking on there. There are like 300 people talking on YouTube, but only 30 on Twitch, so it's easier to reach me on Twitch. Yeah, anyone has information on alien life or the developments on UFOs or whatever, please at me with information.
how'd they do this accidentally? Study conscious interactions with and control of technology.
So I got this from someone in the U.S. government who's
Oh, Tucker got this from someone in the U.S. government, huh? Tucker unveiled this information. That makes me even more skeptical. I'm sorry, man. I just don't believe it.
well, look. Let me just start by saying I don't know anything, but
Well, that's not what you're saying right now. You're claiming to be knowledgeable in this subject.
he sent me this. The above is 100% legit. I was read into this program but told never to tell anyone. It's now been released. As you can see, it began as a result of my old program, AATIP. I signed a document saying I would never talk about Kona Blue and similar efforts. I can't believe the AARO would have released it.
Okay, so Kona Blue, I guess, is supposed to be this, this alien program or whatever, where they were studying alien spacecraft or some other thing like that. Sorry, man, I'm going to need a little more evidence than Tucker Carlson's word on it. It's just how it is.
Look,
Yeah.
I mean, here's what we do know is that there's enough going on in the skies, but not just the skies, underwater, that the U.S. military has been forced to respond to it. So, like, move aircraft from one place to another because there are too many of these objects in the sky. That's actually happened. Chris Mellon just wrote a long piece about it.
I don't know who Chris Mellon is, and I don't trust a word out of Tucker's mouth. Like, the dude lies for a living.
So it's real. The government is not controlling it. In fact, it's forcing the government, DOD, to respond. And we know that there is a real effort and has been underway for a long time to keep the public from knowing about it. But that's all known. That's established. I don't think any rational person would deny that. The question is, like, what is it, actually? I mean, now is sort of the point where you have to ask, like, what is this? And...
like, I would love for there to be aliens, but I'm sorry, man. I just don't feel I have enough evidence.
So that's the
How much of it do you think
conversation.
is ours?
Well, none of it's ours.
None of it.
Well, I don't know. I mean, clearly, the U.S. government is huge. It's the largest human organization. I think there are 2 million federal employees and another 10 million federal contractors. So,
Okay, don't trust Tucker's numbers here either. China as a country is 5 times larger than the United States by mass, the more people. There are 1.3 billion Chinese people in China and only 330 million in the United States. So I guess 4 times bigger, almost a little bit under 4 times larger than the United States. I would be surprised if the Chinese government was not larger than the U.S. government, but okay, whatever.
who are effectively government employees but don't have civil service protection, for example. So that's 12 million people in a country of 340 million working for
Yeah, I don't believe him.
the federal government. So it's kind of hard to overstate how big the federal government is and how well funded. And so to say the government this, the government that, no, of course, it's people within the government. But yeah, they're working on all kinds of things, obviously, that are classified.
Yeah, obviously, people work on classified things.
But in general, no, they can't control these objects. So no, it's not American technology.
Well,
I agree, it's not American technology, whatever, because, all right, just going back to the basics here, the U.S. government held some congressional hearings or whatever on unexplained aerial phenomena. And people testified under oath that there were some unexplained aerial phenomena that were like, I don't know. I don't remember what they testified. That were like, unexplainable. We had no idea what was going on. And the government was, the president, Joe Biden, ordered the military to shoot them down, famously. It was a really big deal all the way back then. Now, in my opinion, I don't think that the United States government would have revealed anything about these objects or that they even existed if they thought there's any chance that they were a foreign adversary's spy, items or whatever. So if they thought for a moment that China was spying on the United States by using these little objects, they wouldn't have said a word, in my opinion. They would have just kept it zipped and let things play out the way they play out. Maybe shoot them down or whatever. But the U.S. government did come out and say, hey, we've got these UAPs or UFOs, and we just shot a whole bunch of them down. So there's that. I mean, who knows if it's real? Who knows if it's alien? The answer is, I don't know. That's the correct position. I don't know. And espousing anything other than that is wrong. You are incorrect if you say anything other than I don't know.
Or Russian or Chinese. It predates, all of that.
well, some of it does, right? Like for sure, the Kenneth Arnold sightings, that was really early on. That was like the early 1950s.
I guess they're talking about early UFO sightings.
He was seeing these flying saucers, these discs that were moving over mountains.
Well,
Yeah, that was nonsense. If he's talking about what I think he's talking about, okay, I'm not sure these pictures specifically. I don't know if how they made these, but there are some famous UFO sightings that were made with a vacuum cleaner. It was a weird vacuum cleaner. It was from a weird angle and all of that stuff, but I believe that this is one of them right here. This is a vacuum cleaner. And it was debunked a long time ago. There are all kinds of UFO conspiracies that are completely 100% fake and easily debunkable. And that's why I'm so skeptical. I'm not ready to believe, certainly, not a word out of these people's mouths. And I'm not ready to believe that aliens exist until I get real hard evidence of it.
Right. I mean, the prophet Ezekiel writes about it in the first chapter, wheels in
Oh, my God.
the sky.
Yeah, that's a crazy one. Boy, when you
Well,
read
it is
that,
crazy. If you read it, it's like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
You know, and
a wheel
so,
within a
and not
wheel.
just, the Hebrew scriptures, like it's all over every,
the Vedic texts.
of course. So
Oh, my God. They're saying that aliens are in the Bible, and that's evidence that aliens are real. Are you shitting me right now?
these are spiritual phenomenon. There's no evidence they're from another planet. I mean, I think that's the
Oh, okay. They're not even saying it's aliens. They're saying that it's religious stuff.
That's the lie, that they're from Mars. Look, space, the atmosphere is really well monitored, right? Both for defense reasons, but also because, like, it'd be nice to know when asteroids are coming. And there's no evidence, has never been any evidence that there are lots of these objects, these vehicles coming into our atmosphere from somewhere else, some other planet. There's no evidence of that at all. So they're from here, and they've been here for thousands of years, whatever they are. And it's pretty clear to me that they're spiritual entities, whatever that means. They're supernatural, and which is to say, supernatural means above the natural, above the observable nature. And
Okay, it sounds like he's going all like Scientologist on me right now. This is a Scientologist belief that, God, you don't get to find out about all of this Scientologist stuff until you reach like OT3, which costs hundreds of thousands of dollars. Is really, really tough to reach. But anyway, the belief basically is that there are souls that were sent here by Lord Xenu, and the souls, I don't remember what it. The souls were placed in something, and then they tried to bomb them with, they were placed in a volcano. They tried to bomb them, something like that. I don't even remember. It's been so long since I read these documents. I think they were revealed on WikiLeaks or something, famously, the Scientology documents. But that's what he sounds like he's talking about right now.
they don't behave according to the laws of science as measured by people, and they've been here for a long time. And there's a
He's completely full of shit.
ton of evidence they're under the ocean and under the ground. So, like, with that fact set, what do you conclude?
When did you start having this opinion that they were spiritual and that they've always been here? Like, when did this?
Well, I didn't know anything about the topic until 2017, and
Was that after the New York Times piece?
No, it was before. It was before, and the things that I saw. I mean, like, I was and am still a very conventional person. I mean, I'm 54. I
Totally conventional. Yeah, absolutely. That checks out.
grew up in this country in California, which was like every assumption about America I bought completely, just completely. And I thought that everyone who questioned those assumptions was bad.
Well, no, they should be questioned. Absolutely. Every assumption should be questioned, always. You're not bad for questioning an assumption. Nobody has ever said that. You're a fool if you believe that questioning assumptions is bad. They should always be questioned. The problem is asserting that these assumptions are false, asserting aliens are not real, or asserting aliens are real. The government is covering it up. That's a fact. That's not questioning assumptions. That's you pretending you know more than anybody else. It's complete garbage.
I just bought into the system completely without even thinking about it. And I imagined that I was like some kind of free thinker and, I'm going against the grain. But like my core assumptions were the assumptions fed to me by the culture and the government. And I didn't even realize it. But anyway, I'd never really thought about UFOs at all. And I'd been in journalism since I was a kid. So, of course, I'd run into a lot of people who had crazy views on a lot of different topics. UFOs, 9/11, circumcision, like every whack job in the world you run into in your cover.
Wait, what I'm sorry, circumcision is a whack job belief? Are you in favor of it or against it? What are you talking about? I wonder if Tucker realizes that the Bible says that Christians should not get circumcised. Is he aware of that? if you do get circumcised, then you have to follow all 613 Old Testament commandments. No pork, no shellfish, no cotton and linen blends, the whole 9 yards. He does. I bet he's not aware of that. Wait, did he? I thought he said Davidic texts, not the Vedic texts. No, he did say the Vedic texts. The first 3 Vedas are known as the Vidya, threefold knowledge. What are the Vedic texts and what it described? The oldest text of Hinduism. Wow. Fascinating.
UFOs, 9/11, circumcision, like every whack job in the world you run into in your cover.
That's really sad. Like, you shouldn't be circumcising your kid. Don't do that.
Covering stuff.
Fluoride.
Right. I just brushed with non-fluoride toothpaste this morning.
Me too.
Right, exactly.
This is so stupid, dude.
Exactly. But probably unlike you, I didn't have any opinions like that. I was like, fluoride, come on. 9/11, shut up.
Yeah.
UFOs, you're fucking...
Yeah, you're an idiot if... All right, let me rephrase. I'm not going to bag on people in all seriousness. You need to rethink your beliefs and positions on things if you buy into any of these ideas. That fluoride is bad for you, or that, oh my God, what just happened? Okay, there are steel balls rolling. Anyway, you need to rethink all of your positions and beliefs and ideas and everything if you buy into anything that they're talking about here. It's absurd nonsense.
Crazy, you know what I mean? I just
right.
I had this reflexive. I'm ashamed of it. I'm not bragging about it, but it was 2017, and really it was the Trump campaign. It wasn't that I was so in love with Trump, though I've always liked Trump because he's hilarious and charming and all that. But I wasn't like a Trumper or anything.
No, he hated Donald Trump, and we have the text messages to prove it. I love everything about it.
But it was watching that campaign. And particularly his claim that they were spying on him. And I was like, really? They're not, the intel services and federal law enforcement, FBI, do not spy on presidential campaigns. That's so out of the realm.
They weren't, okay, they weren't spying on Donald Trump. The, what do you call, the FBI and all of that, they weren't spying on Trump. You know what was happening? They were spying on Russian assets, as they do, and they happened across a phone call between Donald Trump and his kids and the Russian assets that they were targeting. Now, why the hell is Donald Trump and or his children or a lawyer or whoever, why are they talking to known Russian spies? That's a weird thing for them to do, isn't it? So anyway, the point here that I'm so laboriously getting to is that Donald Trump is and was a Russian asset. He's been a Russian asset all along. And that's why the U.S. government, the Fed or whoever, was asking questions about him or was listening to his phone calls. Because he was literally having conversations with the ambassadors and the spies and stuff. That's why.
That's so crazy. That could never happen because, of course, there's no democracy in a system like that. And fundamentally, we're a democracy, an imperfect one. It kind of lumbers along, but it's not fake. And then that turned out to be true. And I knew it was true. And that,
again, it's not accurate. They were listening to Trump's phone calls because he kept calling Russian, not Russian assets, but, assets to Russia, yeah. And they kept calling, or they kept talking to, Russian spies and stuff, known Russian spies.
That just blew my mind. So I began a process still ongoing of reassessing a lot of other things. Okay, well, if that was not true, what else is not true? And what else that they told me was a conspiracy theory might actually have some basis in fact. And then
Who's they exactly, I wonder?
Someone from, a DOD employee reached out to me and said, actually, there's a ton of evidence that this UFO thing is real. And really? And so I started doing segments on it. when I worked at the TV channel, and there was like a lot of mockery, but I was like, I don't care. I'm just going to do this. And then, of course, the second you start, as you know better than anybody, you start talking about something, then people reach out to you. And
There shouldn't be mockery about any of this stuff. If this is true, I want to know. If I'm wrong about something, I want to be corrected. I want to be right. If you're right, I want to be right also. There should never, ever be mockery over investigating a story. Tucker wasn't receiving mockery for his investigation of UFOs or whatever. He was being mocked because he brazenly came out on air and made claims about it being true. There are, in fact, aliens out there, blah, blah, blah. That's why he's being made fun of. He's not a journalist, by the way. He keeps framing himself up as a journalist. He absolutely is not. He is a political commentator, plain and simple.
some of them are deranged, but some of them aren't at all. So I just started getting a lot of information from people and meeting with people, mostly in private. You know, come to my house, let's talk. And I decided on the basis of what they told me, and then I talked to a lot of people about it, that actually this is really a very heavy-duty question. Actually, it's not the little green men question. It's like a much...
Well, wait a minute. I thought you said that you had answers. It's a question? Why would you come out and talk about it on air if it's just a question? Dude pretends to be a journalist. If that were true, he would have journalistic expectations of integrity. He's not a journalist. Never was. Never will be. He is a propagandist. At best, simply a political commentator, and at worst, a propagandist.
Much bigger question. And it's really bad. It's really dark. And then I stopped. Then I was like, I don't want to know anymore because it's not helping me at all as a person.
Because it was just garbage. And it wasn't furthering his career in any way.
And I don't
What information did you get that made you feel like it's dark?
What's so dark? Well, first of all, the deception is always bad. Like lying is bad in it. And it's bad not just in a legal sense in that.
Not always. As I talked about earlier, I don't know if you guys saw my main channel video, but, you know, that's a very Kantian way of viewing things. Sometimes lying is good. You know, if a Nazi comes up to your door and says, turn over any Jews that you have or that you know about or whatever, it's the moral thing for you to lie and say, I don't know any Jews. Even if you're like hiding one in your attic, that's the moral thing to do. Protect somebody's life, right? Lying is not always wrong. And saying lying is always bad is a very black and white way of viewing it. Also known as a Kantian method of viewing the world. A Kantian philosophical position, if you will.
Always bad. Like lying is bad in it. And it's bad not just in a legal sense in that it can be illegal to lie, but it's bad. It's like bad for you. Like it.
Well, it's only illegal to lie if it incites violence, and then it has nothing to do with the lie, or if it is done under oath when you've sworn to tell the truth. Well, what are you talking about? It's illegal to lie. No, it's not.
Rots you. Like being a liar makes you a bad person. When you lie, you are serving evil. There's a moral quality to it that's inescapable and very obvious, and only like advanced civilizations ignore that. Lying is bad. And so if you have lying at scale, which we have on this topic, it's inherently bad. Okay, so that's the first level. The deeper level is so if they're spiritual beings, which I believe they are, like,
i.e. not aliens.
It's a binary. They're either, you know, you're on team good or team bad. You can assign any name to it you want, but like, what are these things?
Well, so I guess what he's saying is if they're spiritual entities, are they angels or are they demons? He views things in such a black and white lens. Like, this is crazy.
Are they good or bad? And I think some of them are bad. And if the U.S. government knows that, or elements, the people within the U.S. government know that, then then they're serving a bad force. And
Well, when you say
about that.
They're serving Satan is what he's saying. Come on, man.
spiritual, like what makes you draw that conclusion that they're
Yeah, seriously.
spiritual?
What's the obvious? I mean, spiritual may be the wrong word. Supernatural. They're beyond nature as we understand it.
Okay, well, if they were beyond nature as we understand it, then they would just become part of nature and we would learn more about it. That's the thing. It's like with magic. If magic was real and repeatable, it wouldn't be magic. It would be science. We would just learn how it works and integrate it into our knowledge base about the universe. We'd have mage battalions and stuff in the military. That's how I know it's not real, because it's not been weaponized by the military in some way, at the very least.
I mean, obviously they are. I mean, just chart their physical behavior. It doesn't, it goes outside of what we understand about physics. No visible means of propulsion, coming at indescribable speed, hitting the ocean, continuing at speeds that are impossible.
Again, I don't know that any of this is true. Don't trust a word out of his mouth here, okay?
Undersea. I mean, in other words, if I take a 9mm round or 7.62 by 39 and shoot you at 50 yards underwater in a swimming pool, and it's even more intense in salt water because it's denser, you could catch the bullet if it even makes it to you.
Yeah, that's true. It's because water doesn't compress. Air compresses. So more than likely, the bullet is good. It's like if you run into water, like if you do a cliff dive or something, if you land flat on the water, it's going to be like hitting concrete, because concrete doesn't compress and water doesn't compress. There's nowhere for the water to go. You have to kind of create a path for the water by putting your hands down so the water can separate and move to the side.
Right? So if you have a craft, any object underwater that's traveling at 500 knots as measured by sonar, right there you're challenging our understanding of physics. Like, what is...
Not necessarily. I don't know what 500 knots is. I'm not sure. But if it challenges our knowledge of physics, then the problem is physics. We need to, refine our understanding of physics.
Is that? How can that be? So, yeah.
They've tracked that. They've tracked things going 500 knots under
Oh, I love it, dude. Joe Rogan's questioning him.
the sea.
Yeah, really. Yeah.
No, they haven't. Oh, my God. I don't know how fast 500 knots is. I don't know if that's fast or not. But listening to Joe Rogan ask him that and listening to him answer it tells me all I need to know. That this is completely made up. Did you hear the big long pause there? Listen again.
Track things going 500 knots under the sea.
Yeah, really. Yeah, much faster than any object can actually go undersea. For sure.
Completely fabricated.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of stuff going on underwater, and a lot. And there's video of these things coming out of the sky into the water and also emerging from the water.
Right.
Yeah. So...
Yeah, I don't know what he's talking about. This sounds completely made up, but okay.
It's all so blurry, though.
I don't think it's
the
that...
transmedium video.
Yeah, I don't think some of it's that blurry. I think some of it's crystal clear.
We just don't
Okay, well, you're wrong.
have access to it. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Just we haven't seen it?
Correct.
So they have some stuff.
For sure.
Okay, great. Well, when they show it to us, then I'll maybe change my mind. It's all blurry. There's no reason to believe anything about this stuff that Tucker is espousing right now. No reason to believe that there's some conspiracy to cover up aliens' existence or demons' existence or whatever other ridiculous nonsense he's laying down right now. No reason for it. None.
So, but there's just a lot going on underwater, and it's measured. And so, whatever. I mean, these are all, again, this is like the most obvious observable level of it. But then you just ask yourself, what is this actually? And, if there's been extensive knowledge of this for decades, like maybe 80 years at least, if not going back to the 30s, 90 years.
I think he's talking about Roswell.
To what end? So there are two possible explanations, obvious explanations. The first is the one you often hear, which is this is so heavy that if the public were to know about it, it would be just disruptive. It'd be too
Right.
scary. Like,
Bullshit. There's all kinds of stuff that the public could hear about that would be heavy and disruptive and disturbing. You know what would be really disturbing? If the public found out about it, it would be really disturbing to find out that there was a bomb so powerful that it could wipe out an entire city. Just one single bomb. And it'd be even more disturbing to find out that it was used against a population of people. You know, it'd be really disturbing? The idea that we can communicate with each other instantaneously from anywhere in the world. That not disturbing, but disruptive, I guess you could say. The public can handle anything. The public, quote unquote. They can handle anything. This is just like made up nonsense that I hear constantly from conspiracy theorists. Why are they hiding it? There's no reason to hide it. Well, it'd be disruptive to the public. The fuck you talking about?
Like, you don't want to scare people for no good reason. There's nothing we can do about it. And you also don't want to suggest that, you know, the U.S. military isn't capable of protecting the country, the homeland. And it does suggest that. If you can't control these objects in your airspace, and that's
Just complete nonsense.
known, if they can't, that's known.
No, it's not known. The airspace can be protected. The U.S. military did shoot down a bunch of these objects in our airspace. The fact that they're even reporting on these objects in the first place, the U.S. military, I mean, tells us that they can control our airspace. It's like saying, look how much fentanyl we caught at the border. We can't control our border. We can't control the flow of fentanyl because so much is being caught at the border. Hey, dumbass. If it's being caught at the border, it means it's not making it into the United States. You ever consider that one? It's the exact same thing that we're dealing with here.
Okay? Then that suggests a limit to the power of the U.S. military, and you don't want to tell people that because then they won't believe that they're safe. I get it.
It's nonsense.
But then there's a deeper level, which is like, okay, what's your relationship with these things? What is the U.S. government's relationship with these things? And there's evidence that there is a relationship. And that
What evidence? What are you talking about? Why do you think that the U.S. government is working with aliens?
it's a longstanding, and that raises a lot of questions about intent. And
I mean, it would if you had literally any evidence about any of this.
And so, what is that? And I just personally decided, and people have been hurt by these things. That's a fact.
That is not a fact. Tucker does not know anything about this. He doesn't know that people have been, quote unquote, hurt by these things or whatever. It's just fabricated nonsense.
It's a fact. It's a knowable fact. It's a provable fact. And killed. And I'm not saying.
And how do you know it? How did you prove it? Are you going to give us the proof? Is Jamie going to pull it up? Joe Rogan's little guy, his buddy that produces the show, is he going to pull up the fact for us so that we can know it too? Or are you just going to boldly claim it?
Millions of people have been killed by whatever these things are, but people have been killed, and it's known because it's working its way through the courts out of the VA. So,
just complete garbage. Dude, I love how Jamie always comes in with the W to fact check people. Says, no, that's fake. That's false. No, that's made up. Well, he sometimes comes in with the W to do that. On occasion. From time to time. And he's dead silent when Tucker is on. That's weird, huh? I wonder if Tucker asked him to not fact check a word that he said while he was on air. Kind of gets a noggin jogging, doesn't it? I don't know. I mean, I have no idea. But why isn't Jamie doing that in this case when he does in every other case? That's weird, huh?
I don't know. An object that is, by definition, supernatural. It's above the laws of nature as we understand them.
That's not true.
And that has resulted in the deaths of people.
Also not true.
But we don't spend enough time thinking about what that adds up to. Not good, actually, not good.
Now, how many people do you think have died from these
I
things?
don't
Like, not real.
know, but I mean,
And is it radiation sickness? Is it like what's the
so the
cause of
person
death?
that I talked to, I interviewed someone who was a Stanford medical school professor who's out there and worth talking to, by the way. And
You talking about Gary Nolan?
that's exactly who I'm talking about.
Gary Nolan. Oh, here we go. Yeah, Gary Nolan. I found a Fox News article on it. Haven't found, and New York Post. Both complete garbage. These newspapers are not worth the paper they're printed on. They're not worth the bits that they are laid down on. A Stanford University pathology professor. He's a pathology professor, so he's a professor that studies disease, it sounds to me. A professor that studies illness said that aliens have been on Earth for a long time and are still here, and claims there are experts working on reverse engineering unknown crashed crafts. Great, okay, well, any evidence at all would be fantastic. Can he say this under oath? Can he provide, like, literally any breadcrumbs at all that we can follow back to prove it? Nolan made the bold statements during last week's SALT Eye Connections conference. Oh, a conference! So it wasn't under oath that he said it. Okay. It was a conference in Manhattan during a session called The Pentagon, Extraterrestrial Intelligence, and Crashed UFOs. The host, Alex Klokas, said that's tough to believe and asked him to assign a probability to that statement that extraterrestrial life visited Earth. 100%, Nolan responded. I bet. Totally. Absolutely. Sorry, man, I'm not taking your word for it. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. Give me something extraordinary to believe this.
He was effectively an expert witness in these cases, so he's an expert in brain injury. Do you know him?
Yeah.
He's a pathologist, an illness guy. He's not he's not a geologist. He's not a weapons expert. He's not an astrophysicist or any of that stuff. He has no expertise in this field at all. He's no different than me or you when it comes to aliens or space or general relativity or whatever. But okay, go on.
Yeah. Entirely credible person. Checks all the boxes that I care about. He's got patents, so he's like a lot of Stanford University professors. He's like independently rich. I mean, he flew to. I live in a
Wow, suddenly he accepts people with college degrees as credible.
remote place, and he flew to my place at his own expense because he wanted to tell his story. So he's got no profit motive here. He's the most highly credentialed person at the university, practically.
Practically. Is he or not? This is a yes or no question.
Stanford Medical School, we consider that a big deal. And he's worked on
Stanford Medical School. Wait. No, I'm sorry. Saying Stanford, S-T-A-N, like Nancy, versus Stamford, S-T-A-M, like Mary. There is a difference. I don't remember which one is more prestigious. One of them is prestigious and the other is just a normal college. Stamford is right over the bridge in, across in Connecticut. It's the first stop in Connecticut on the Metro North Railroad in Manhattan.
done this for over 10 years, assessing the injury.
Stanford, S-T-A-N, Stanford is very prestigious, says Kitty Mom. Okay, so I'm mixing it up. So this is a prestigious school that this guy goes to. Anyway, it's a medical school, and it's not an astrophysics place. If the Hayden Planetarium or some famous astrophysicists or prestigious astrophysicists with like patents and credentials and everything under their belt came out and said to me, these things, there's 100% reason to believe that these things are alien crafts, I'd look at it a little bit differently. I would view this differently, for sure.
And he's worked on this for over 10 years, assessing the injuries to U.S. servicemen from being in close proximity to these objects or having contact with these objects. And his conclusion, as you know, because you've talked to him, is that there's some kind of energy coming off here that scrambles people's brains or kills them. and it's not exactly radiation, at least in his telling to me. So anyway, but the point is, people have died.
Okay, well, has he physically seen these things? Has he seen people who have died from this? How does he have any proof? Like, does he have any proof of this stuff at all? How does he know any of this?
Yeah.
And
What people have died? Who? Specifically, name them. Which people died? He's saying lots of people, and he's just saying people. Which ones?
so, it does raise a lot of questions about, like, what the hell, right? What the hell? American citizens have died, and you're hiding it? Why are you hiding that? Why would you hide that?
Perhaps because they
Yeah, why would you hide that, right?
don't have any explanations, because it's so beyond our comprehension that they're still trying to piece it together. Like, I would wonder how much interaction they really do have with these things. Like, if I was from
Who is they? Who are we talking about right now?
another planet, or if I was some interdimensional being, I don't know how much I'd give a shit about the president. I don't know how much I'd give a shit about the government. I would probably look at this infantile race, this species, this bizarre territorial apes with thermonuclear weapons, this very weird species. I'd probably look at them as very chaotic, and I wouldn't really have much concern for who's running it.
Yeah, I can see that.
Especially if they have the ability to travel at insane speeds. And
See, when things aren't politicized heavily, Joe Rogan seems to be on the level. He seems to be logical. He seems to think with a logical brain when it's not about vaccines or whatever other garbage goes through this dude's head.
go undetected. And
Well, it depends. Like that. Okay, so the template that you're using to understand this is like science fiction, right? These are an advanced race of beings from somewhere else. But the template that every other society before us has used is a spiritual one. Mm-hmm. There is a whole world that we can't see that acts on people.
Oh, right. So, Tucker, I got to remember, he's not talking about aliens. He's talking about angels and demons.
A supernatural world that's acting on us all the time for good and bad. Every society has thought this before ours. In fact, every
That's simply not true.
society in all recorded history has thought that until, I'll be specific, August 1945, when we dropped the atom bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
You're telling me everybody believed in Jesus before the bombs were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki? What are you talking about?
And all of a sudden, the West is just officially secular. We're God. There is no God but us. And that's the world that we have grown up in. But that's an anomaly. Like, no one else has ever thought that. There's no...
What? Do people think that now? What the hell are you talking about?
And they've had all kinds of different explanations, and the details differ. But the core idea does not differ, never has differed from caves until now, that we're being acted on by spiritual forces at all times. And so to someone born before or living before...
I mean, that's not true at all. There are people who did not believe that we were being acted on by spiritual forces. There are tons of civilizations who did not view things that way. I don't know what he's talking about.
1945, I think it would have been much more obvious that this is the thing that every society has written about. And in fact, that battle...
And 1945 is different how exactly? How did things change after the bombs dropped?
That unseen battle around us, that spiritual battle, has like been the basis of every society, of every religion, not just Christianity. So, like, it just, once you discard your very, very recent assumptions, relatively speaking, about how the world works, you're like, well, that kind of seems like the obvious explanation, right?
it's not.
They're not very obvious, or I'm sorry, they're not assumptions that are brand new. Like, there have always been atheists. Most people were deists for a long, long time rather than atheists. But you know what? Whatever. These aren't new ideas is the point. And it's bizarre to me that this dude seems to think that these are brand new ideas. You know, I don't even think he believes this, truthfully. I think Tucker realizes that what he's saying is complete BS. Oh my God, I knew it. Son of a bitch. Warning, we've detected your stream belongs to someone else. Yeah, it looks like Joe Rogan is... Yeah, they don't want criticism, unfortunately. It's stupid. Unfortunately, it looks like Joe Rogan is basically taking down the videos because he doesn't like criticism or something. So I guess that's where I'm going to call it for the Joe Rogan video. I didn't even get to where he talked about evolution, unfortunately. But yeah, let me know what you think about it in the comments. And let Joe Rogan know on the twit how you feel about him copyright claiming literally anything anybody ever does that involves him to any degree. This is Joe Rogan talking to Tucker Carlson. Right now they're talking about aliens and the belief that they exist on Earth or whatever. By the way, this is not part one. Don't sweat it if you didn't see the others. This stands independently of the rest. I'll give context if it's missing. Tucker seems to believe that we don't have aliens here on Earth. We have angels and demons. They're angels and demons, all these unexplained aerial phenomena. And he says, well, that's the obvious answer, right? And Joe says, it's not that obvious to me. I think that's funny. I love Joe's skepticism. Normally, he's kind of a little bit of a scumbag. A little, right? But in this case, I feel like he's absolutely on point, fascinatingly. I really don't like Joe Rogan generally, but I'm all for him in this one. All right, let's listen to this. While we do, we're going to play some Tears of the Kingdom. I'm just kind of going around doing whatever. Shouldn't bother you too much if you never played it before.
Once you discard your very, very recent assumptions, relatively speaking,
about atheism,
about how the world works, you're like, well, that kind of seems like the obvious explanation, right?
It's not that obvious to me.
That it's angels or demons.
So what's more obvious, do you think?
Well, I don't...
Like, you don't need an answer. The answer is, I don't know. That's the correct position. I don't know. Is he, like, not okay with saying the words, I don't know? What's his problem with it? Why can't he just say it?
So what's more obvious, do you think?
Well, I don't think there's an obvious explanation. I think if I had to guess, some of this stuff is ours. And some of these things are propulsion systems that they theorized way back in the 1950s. Anti-gravity propulsion systems, things that can operate without igniting fuel and pushing something out, that they operate in some completely different way that utilizes gravity and almost can instantaneously transport to new places, essentially fold space-time.
So the thing is, like, Joe Rogan is like a right-wing culture warrior, but he also accepts a lot of science. He accepts science that other people like Tucker Carlson, at the very least, pretend not to accept uniquely. So, I don't know. I think it's kind of interesting.
Don't know. So there's things that the government does where they have these programs, and the people that are sworn into these programs, whether they're the physicists or, you know, the metallurgists or whoever these people are that are working on these programs, they don't tell
Metallurgist, does that occupation exist anymore? I thought that was kind of a 1630s thing.
anybody. All their phones are monitored, everything's monitored. There's a culture of secretism that's pretty intense.
You mean secrecy?
And it's not inconceivable that over the course of the last 70-plus years of them theorizing and then eventually implementing some of these things, that they've developed drones that can move in ways that the people that understand conventional propulsion systems could not imagine.
Sure, I can see that. However, think about this one. Just knock this one around for a second. I heard this from somebody recently. I don't remember who. In fact, it may have been from this. The U.S. torture program in Iraq during the Iraq War was the most closely guarded secret probably in the world. Nobody was supposed to know about the torture program. Nobody. It was as top secret as it gets because it was against international law. And it slipped out. It leaked. People found out about it, and there was public outrage, and there's debate over whether this is okay, and if it was torture or not, and torture light, and blah, blah, blah. Secrets that involve... The more people that secrets involve, the less likely it is to stay a secret. So, for example, the flat earth conspiracy theory would, by necessity, involve airline pilots, globe manufacturers, telescope manufacturers, everybody at NASA, everybody at SpaceX, everybody everywhere. And there'd be no room for, like, error or, oops, I let that slip. There'd be no room for it. The fact that aliens exist has not slipped out yet by the U.S. government and has not, like, pictures have not surfaced and the lid hasn't been completely blown off of this whole thing. The fact that that hasn't happened tells me everything I need to know. It's bullshit. It's not real.
And that they've figured out a way to do this and to keep it secret. And we're probably not the only ones working on these things. But where did they get that information? And you know, you know Diana Pasulka,
Mm-hmm.
you know her work.
Yep.
Like they describe these crafts, these crash crafts, as donations, which is fascinating. Like that they're left there. The crashed retrieval program, the crashed UAP retrieval program, is essentially they're going like, figure this out. We're going to crash this thing here. You figure this out. And the question is, if that's true, okay, where are these things coming from? Are they?
No, I have no idea what he's talking about.
If there's something that is so advanced that it's decided to leave us a little trinket for us to back engineer, is that from another dimension? Is that from here? Is that from some realm that we just don't have access to? Is it from another planet? We have drones that are on other planets right now. We have a drone on Mars. We have, you know, the lunar rovers. We have satellites that we send to observe and photograph other planets.
Okay.
We just got really high detailed photographs of Jupiter. They're pretty amazing. But if something was like us on another planet but lived uninterrupted with technology advancing for 1,000 years, 10,000 years, 1,000,000 years more than us, what would that be like? And how much would we be able to understand of what we're seeing? What would we be able to see?
They don't know the science behind this stuff. They don't even know how an engine works, more than likely. Certainly not Tucker Carlson, right? As if he would ever bother reading about this or learning about this stuff. Like he cares. But he says things so confidently. Everybody trusts his every word. They hang on his every word. It's insane.
And how much would we be able to understand of what we're seeing? What would we be able to see? And this idea that we monitor our skies, sure, but if something just appears and disappears essentially instantaneously, if something literally can fold time, can fold space, and just traverse between immense distances almost instantaneously, what are we going to see? What are we going to see? And also, like, what kind of detection systems do we have? We have radar, we have visual, we have a bunch of different military-based detection systems to look out for. Enemy crafts and airships and all that stuff. But if you're dealing with something that's 1,000,000 years more advanced than us, how much would we be able to detect?
Well, so I think we're...
Yeah, we came up with the rotating detonation engine in 10,000 years. It took us 10,000 years, from agriculture to the RDE. That is about as impressive as it gets, in my opinion. Holy Christ, dude. And on that note, we're about to listen to Tucker's take on this. I don't believe that Tucker views things this way for a second. I think Tucker is smart enough that he knows that what he's saying is complete bullshit. What he's about to say. He just wants to play a bit.
years more advanced than us. How much would we be able to detect?
Well, so I think we're pointing to the same question. I mean, I have no
Right.
doubt that the U.S. government has technology that we don't know the details of. That makes sense.
Sure.
But, like, where did it come from?
Right.
I'm not even sure, this is a separate question, but related. I'm not even sure we really know where nuclear technology came from.
How much do we know about where nuclear technology came from? We know a lot about where it came from. Marie Curie did all kinds of testing and studies, and her husband, whatever his name was, Perry, something, did all kinds of studies on this stuff. Niels Bohr was one of the earliest people to map out what an atom looks like, or how an atom operates, or whatever. We know all kinds of stuff about how this stuff works. What are you even saying right now? As if we have no clue how any of this plays out or how any of it operates or whatever. He's acting like we're completely in the dark. You think that, like, we just got nuclear technology out of nowhere? Certainly not. You can't convince me of it. Tucker knows better, right?
Actually,
Really?
Yes.
Like the Manhattan Project?
Yeah, like we know the Manhattan, and we know something about the Manhattan Project, but like where exactly did that, came from Germany. German scientists were working on it. Okay.
Really? You don't know? Here's the bottom line. Here's the problem. Just because you don't know doesn't mean there is no answer. Doesn't mean that you can make up your own answer. You can say whatever you want. It's just fabricated garbage.
Okay. Well, it's a separate conversation, but the one person I know who's really pushed others writing a book on it, who's a trustworthy person and a friend of mine.
Anytime you hear Tucker say he's a trustworthy person, you know they're not.
You know him. Said to me, actually, I spent a year working on this, and the closer I got to, like, okay, but what's the genesis? Like, where did this? What was the Isaac Newton apple on the head? Oh, gravity's real moment for fission. Not clear.
No, it is clear. We know exactly how this happened. As a matter of fact, the first nuclear power plant, if you will, it started out as basically a very, very, very weak form of fission. A nuclear power plant works by taking 3 rods of, say, uranium or whatever, and you have 3 control rods of lead, right? And the uranium is radioactive, shoots protons out randomly, right? And as it shoots off protons, it becomes the more stable form of uranium, which is lead, because it's losing mass, it's losing a proton, and it becomes lead. So you take the lead control rods, and the proton just kind of runs into the lead, and that's it. To accelerate this process, all you have to do is fire radiation at, let's say, gamma like X-rays or something, at the uranium, and it will accelerate its process of letting off protons, and the uranium will heat up. If you keep firing gamma rays or X-rays or whatever, I'm just throwing things out there, if you keep shooting stuff at it, then it will reach critical mass and it becomes an explosion, because the protons start firing off and then knocking into other protons in the plutonium or whatever. And then those protons, when they split up, or those atoms, when they split apart, they shoot protons everywhere, and then they hit other atoms, and it becomes a chain reaction. It's called, Richard Feynman called it tickling the dragon's tail. Basically trying to get this get as close as you can to a chain reaction without actually setting off a chain reaction. Anyway, we have control rods in there to prevent the uranium from going critical. It went critical in Chernobyl, and they couldn't stop it from melting down, and now we have what's called an elephant's foot there. If you see the elephant's foot, you will die. You will be dead. This is what the elephant's foot looks like in Chernobyl right here. A picture was taken of it, and the person that took the picture died because there's so much radiation. This is the melted down core of the what do you call it? Like of the the Chernobyl nuclear reactor. You don't want it to go critical. So they put control rods in to prevent it from going critical, and they can lower the control rods anytime they need to lower the reaction. But the goal is to heat up the uranium rods or the radioactive rods. I don't know what they use now, plutonium or something. I'm not even sure. Anyway, they heat up the rod, or they get the rods, they fire radiation at the rods to heat them up, and they keep them in water. And those rods heat the water up. And the water turns into steam, and the steam goes up and turns turbines at the top, and the turbines power a city or whatever. Well, the earliest nuclear reactors didn't power a city. They were getting a really, really weak amount of electricity out of it. Almost no electricity. Almost nothing. And that's because they didn't know how it worked exactly. The scientists on the projects, they didn't know how it worked. They didn't know how to get a lot of it, and they didn't want to take too many risks or anything. I mean, this is all well understood, well documented. Like, we know how we got there. There is a Newton, apple on the head moment for nuclear reactors or whatever. Tucker is pretending that this is some kind of an alien project that was given to us by aliens, except they're not aliens, they're demons or whatever. Just fabricated garbage. What the hell are you talking about right now, Tucker? I don't think that he even believes this, truthfully. I think he knows he's full of shit on this. He's just pandering to a very specific crowd who he knows will eat it up, who is obsessed with Christian nationalist Jesus. It's just insane, and it's sad. I feel like he's kind of denigrating the memory of all of the scientists who've worked on these projects over the years and died working on them, right? Not just scientists who've died working on them, but just like regular maintenance guys were working on these projects, trying to help the scientists, keeping everything clean. As a matter of fact, there was a guy who was trying to tickle the dragon's tail, as Richard Feynman called it, and he went over the line, and it went critical, and it killed him. And I think it killed the janitor that was there cleaning, the office after hours, too. Or maybe the janitor was, behind something. I don't remember. Anyway, people died. Just normal people died because of this research. And Tucker is just pretending that none of this happened. He doesn't understand how any of this happened. Doesn't believe that it's real. He thinks we got it from demons. What is wrong with you, Tucker? Seriously.
For fission. Not clear. Weird.
Not clear? Yes, it is clear.
I don't know the answer. But here's the point. Clearly,
because you don't know the answer doesn't mean nobody knows the answer, Tucker. You aren't everybody.